All right, in this video, I'm going to show you how to use your TI83 or 84 calculator or your TI83 or 84 calculator app and how to create a histogram. So we're going to learn how to enter data, which is really important. We're going to use that over and over again. And then we're also going to learn how to do a histogram on our calculator. So again, this video pertains to the TI83 or 84 calculator or the apps. So in my class for iOS, I tend to recommend the app Graphing Calc 83, and that's actually what I'm using right here on my phone. So I have an iPhone, and I have that app. If you have an Android, I think Android has a few more choices, but the one that I've used before is called Graphing Calculator times 84. And again, they all really work just like the 83, 84. There could be some slight differences. So for instance, if you're using an app, you have a touch screen, which actually makes graphing much easier because you can just use your fingers to zoom in or zoom out or like touch the points and things. So it's really nice. But they all work very similar. So if you have any one of these, you should be able to follow along with this video. So the first thing I need to do is enter my data. And that's kind of what I'm doing here. So I have to enter my data into my calculator. So what you're going to do is press the stat button, and then you're going to press enter or select edit. So press that, see that stat button right here? You're going to press that first. Okay. Now, if you have a standard calculator, you're going to just hit the enter button, which is usually at the bottom. I have an app, so mine's a touch screen. So I'm going to make sure I'm on edit. I'm just going to hit that edit feature. Now you see L1, L2, L3, L4. That just means list, like list 1, list 2, list 3, list 4. So this is where we enter our data. And we're going to do this a lot in class because your calculator can do some pretty amazing calculations very quickly for you. So we're going to be entering a lot of data all the time into our calculator. So this is a key step. Now, your data could vary from problem to problem. So I'm going to do something very specific for a histogram, but it's the same idea. You can enter any kind of data you want into your calculator. So for our purposes, to do the histogram, we're going to enter our class midpoints in L1. So that's this first list. And then we're going to enter our frequencies in L2. Okay. So notice that when I'm using the calculator, I've actually done a lot of work already. So you can't just kind of jump into the calculator and think it's going to do everything for you. You do have to do some work up front as well. So the first thing I'm going to do in L1 is enter those class midpoints. So this version uses your midpoints as your x-axis. So I'm just going to type them in, and every time I type one in, I'm just going to hit that enter key on the bottom of my calculator. Oh, there we go, the enter key there. All right, so I'm going to type in 172.5, and once I have that value typed in, I just hit enter. And then I'm going to type in 208.5, enter. And I'm going to go all the way down the line. Now, I always make mistakes myself. You guys see I make typing mistakes sometimes, and I make calculating mistakes. So if you're finding that your calculator graph or your answers aren't looking right, make sure you typed in your data correct. I know I do it all the time. So I'm just going to double check everything before I move on to the next step. It's really easy to make a small mistake when you're typing. So that looks good. If you need to edit, so if you have a regular calculator, you can use your buttons here, your up and down, to go back up and redo a value if you've made a mistake. If you're using an app, you actually could just touch it as well because it's a touch screen. Now we're going to do list 2. And again, if you have a standard calculator, you can just press the over arrow and it will move you over to the next list. Or if you have a touch screen, you can just tap it. And in the second list, I'm going to type my frequencies. So those heights. Okay, so these ones right here. So let's see, I have 3, 2, 5, 6, 7, 4, and 3. Double check 3, 2, 5, 6, 7, 4, and 3. Okay, so now my data is entered. I have my midpoints entered and I have my frequencies entered. So I have like my X values and my Y values, right? My X values on the bottom and then my frequencies giving my Y values. All right, so now let's follow the next step. Now is the graphing part. So we're going to press second stat plot. So look here, second is this key right here. And that key, my calculator, it's orange. It could be a different color on your key, but it will let you use all those little words in that same color. So see how I have a lot of these words that are also orange? So it basically each button has two functions. So when you press second, you get to use that second function. So see, I see stat plot right there. You're not doing the stat, you're doing stat plot. So I'm going to use that piece next. So I press second, and then to press stat plot, you're actually pressing that Y equals key. Now you do want to make sure that one of your plots is turned on. So see how they're all X's and then I have one that's green. So that means it's turned on. So if you have a standard calculator, you just want to make sure that you hit enter and turn those on. If you have a touchscreen, you can just tap them on and off. So if they're all off, you just need to pick one to tap on. So that's turning on plot 1. And then we're going to make sure the histogram is highlighted. So on a touch screen, you can touch that graph. And then if you look, you can scroll through and see all different types. So there is a scatter plot. Here is some sort of line graph. This is probably great for your frequency polygon or something. Here's your histogram. These are called box plots. We'll see these later. Okay. So I'm going to make sure the histogram is selected, and you can choose what you want to use for points. I just like the circle. And we want to make sure the X list is L1. So you can scroll through here as well, or use your up and down keys on your calculator. And we want to make sure that the Y list is L2. So again, you can have it kind of set however you want to. Here, I'm going to let my calculator know that my X list, my horizontal values are going to be in L1, which were my midpoints. And I'm going to tell my calculator that my frequencies, so my heights, were given in L2. So I'm just telling my calculator which lists I used to put my values in. And then I'm going to hit done. Okay. Now I actually have to graph it. So see how you have a button here that says graph? Now you're going to hit that button, graph. And there is my histogram. Now, if you can't see it, so your calculators do have a zoom button on it. On the touch screen, it's on the bottom here. On a regular screen, you're not going to see it on the bottom. Let's see. Back to my graph. I think you'll see it on this screen. It's just hard to see because I don't have the actual calculator. So you should have a zoom button somewhere on your screen if you have the standard calculator, not a touch screen. On the touch screen, it's at the bottom. I think on the regular calculator, it's more like up top or in the middle. But if you hit zoom, let's say you can't see your picture, make sure you hit the one that says zoom stat, because that will go to your statistics graph, our histogram. So if you hit zoom stat, then it will kind of zoom in for you. So for instance, let's say I start and I graph and this is what I see. And I'm like, hey, where's my graph? I did everything right. Why isn't it showing? Well, go down to zoom and hit zoom stat, and then you'll be able to see it. And you can see here, right? You can see our scaling is way out in the 150s to almost 450s here, because that's where our class midpoints are, right? They're pretty large. And you can see your heights are correct. So that I can see that one's at 3. I can see that one is at 2. I can see that one is at 5, and so on. And I can see it right here too with that little N. Now, on the app, I have a touch screen, so I can just go ahead and touch and it will give me those points. On your calculator, remember you're using those little arrows, the right and left arrows, the up and down. So you can hop to the different bars by just hitting that right arrow or that left arrow. And that should move you right along. So there's our histogram right in our calculator.